Out of the hundreds of combat operations I have covered, today's story is easily ranked in the top 5 most violent I have ever covered. Now, there isn't any overwhelmingly graphic footage in this video, however, there is a very disturbing sequence towards the end of the story, and so for that reason, viewers' discretion is advised. As the hunt for Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda leadership continued in Afghanistan through the winter of 2001 and 2002, U.S. Central Command directed a discreet intelligence gathering mission that required the long-range reconnaissance, surveillance, and close-quarters combat skills of Company A, 1st Battalion, 5th Special Forces Group, or 5th Group for short. This mission was referred to as a Sensitive Site Exploitation, or SSE, and it called for the focused search and recovery of enemy personnel, documents, manuals, computers, weapons, explosives, equipment, and any related material that might be of intelligence value. Commanded by Major John West, 5th Group was specifically organized, trained, and equipped for this type of mission. Since December 2001, 5th Group had conducted 3 SSE missions with marked success. In fact, they had executed these missions so flawlessly that only 2 shots had been fired in all 3 missions, both of which were just warning shots that led to immediate surrenders. The company captured a total of 9 Al-Qaeda suspects, destroyed several tons of weapons and ammunition, and made valuable intelligence finds, including satellite phones, tape recorders, and encrypted electronic records. On January 9th, 2002, U.S. Central Command issued another SSE order to Major John West. The target was 2 suspected Al-Qaeda compounds at Hazar Qadam near the town of Orizgan, about 166 kilometers northeast of Kandahar. The mission, designated AQ-048, was to kill or capture any Taliban or Al-Qaeda personnel and collect material for intelligence analysis. The 2 target sites were both walled compounds containing a collection of various sized buildings. The compounds were surrounded by farm fields, and the 2 sites were about 1.5 kilometers apart. Major West decided he would seize both sites simultaneously and divided his company into 2 separate assault forces, with a unit of New Zealand SAS troops set aside as a quick reaction force in the event more combat power was needed. Major West would lead Special Forces Operational Attachment 512, 513, and 514 in an assault of the westernmost site, named Objective Kelly. The eastern compound, designated Objective Bridgid, became the target for ODAs 511 and 516, led by the Company Operations Officer Chief Warrant 3 Dwight Ashford. 2 Marine Corps CH-53s delivered Major West and his 45-man team to their landing zone about 5 kilometers from Objective Kelly, while 3 MH-47s from 160th SOAR delivered Ashford's mobile force along with their armored trucks to their landing zone about 6 kilometers from Objective Bridgid. After a quiet tactical march at 17 degrees Fahrenheit and a slow drive under NVGs across terrain 7,000 feet above sea level, the 2 assault forces arrived at their pre-assault positions right on schedule. Maintaining close communications, the 2 forces simultaneously moved their security elements into position. However, a deep irrigation ditch just outside the wall of Bridgid forced the assaulters to dismount and approach their entry points on foot. The vehicle drivers and mounted gun teams began hastily searching for a way to bypass or cross the deep ditch. But in order to execute both hits simultaneously, Ashford and his team would have to just assault the target without the backup of their armored trucks and just hope that they were able to get around the ditch quickly and into the fight. But with all elements now in position, both assault leaders initiated their attacks according to a well-rehearsed sequence of commands. 3 breaching charges on 3 entry points were then detonated simultaneously, and the assault elements positioned to the side of each entry point stormed into the compound. Within minutes, the assault teams at Kelly had physically overpowered 24 enemy fighters in the 10 buildings on the compound. One enemy fighter, firing his weapon from a doorway, wounded Staff Sergeant Jesse Wilcox in the right foot. As the enemy fighter backed out of the building spraying bullets into the darkness, a security team member killed him with a well-placed shot. Another enemy sentry was eliminated when he fired on the assaulters from outside the compound. These were the only 2 enemy fatalities at Objective Kelly. At Objective Bridgid, a guard opened fire when he spotted Ashford's assault teams as they ran through the main gate of the compound to their breach points. His alarm shots prompted several firefights as the assaulters fought their way across the courtyard and into the main building. Once inside, it was close quarters combat from room to room, and the resistance was heavy. Having initially stunned the enemy fighters in the room with flashbang grenades, the assaulters eliminated 5 enemy fighters as 2 others escaped out windows. When Master Sergeant Albert Pale and Sergeant First Class John Sue burst into another room, an enemy fighter ran out between them. Sue quickly spun around and pursued him, shooting him down before he could escape. Now alone in the darkened room, Master Sergeant Pale could see 3 enemy fighters surrounding him through his night vision goggles. He quickly killed 2 of them with his M4 before the 3rd man jumped him from behind, clawing at his eyes and ripping off his night vision. Pale then threw the enemy soldier over his shoulder, sharply slamming the man's head into the ground, breaking his neck. In the darkness, Master Sergeant Pale could still feel the enemy fighter, even with a broken neck, trying to grasp at him. So he quickly drew his 9mm pistol and fired twice, finally finishing off the enemy soldier. And as he started to get back on his feet, he realized that the enemy soldier was still hanging on to him. His hand had been caught in between his body armor during their struggle. Thankfully, the rest of the hostile fighters in the compound didn't fight quite so stubbornly. In the next room, a single enemy fighter dropped his rifle when the assaulters charged in. He was quickly subdued and flex-cuffed. In the courtyard, after killing several defenders, the Bridgid assault team came under heavy rifle and machine gun fire from some enemy fighters hiding in a pile of rubble adjacent to the main building. Just as things were getting tense, the 2 heavily armed vehicles wheeled into the compound, firing their M2 50 caliber machine gun and Mark 19 40mm grenade launchers. The heavy firepower quickly silenced the enemy behind the rubble. But the fighting wasn't over yet. After Bridgid was thought to have been secured, the team's interpreter, Marine Corps Corporal Colin Berman, had come inside the main building to examine some documents. While Berman was reading the paper with his small pen light, an enemy fighter who was thought to have been dead quietly got up from the dirt floor and attacked him with his bare hands. The surprised Berman quickly managed to slam his assailant into the ground and finish him off with his M4. With the mission now complete at Objective Bridgid, Ashford sent a survey team to mark the nearby LZ before he radioed for the waiting helicopters to extract his force. The team reported back that the primary LZ was unusable and suggested the alternate site. However, the walled farmhouse next to that site had not yet been checked, cleared, and secured, so Ashford told ODA 516 to clear the building. The Special Forces team applied an explosive breaching charge to the wall and blew an entryway into the small yard. Inside the farmhouse, they found a family huddled together, frightened by the gunfire and explosions. The assaulters moved them into a windowless room for safety and continued to clear the area. ODA 516's actions reflected the professionalism and character of Company A soldiers. Minutes before, the detachment was fighting close quarters with the enemy in freezing darkness. Then a helmeted and masked assaulter was patiently leading a little girl by her hand to her family. The unit's reputation had preceded it. The farmer's wife had been hysterical until the assaulters identified themselves as Americans. With that one word, The woman regained her composure and quietly guided her children to the safe area. At Objective Kelly, Major West knew the operation was a success. As defined by his orders, they had taken 27 detainees, confirmed 16 dead enemy fighters, seized radios and documents, and were about to demolish anti-aircraft cannons, mortars, and other weapons and ammunitions. The AC-130 Spectre gunships overhead that had covered their assault would soon destroy material that could not be easily removed or destroyed. The entire operation had been completed in less than 2 hours, but Major West had an inkling of trouble. As the shooting died down at Objective Bridgid, Ashford radioed West that one of his assault force found an Afghan national flag inside the compound gate. Major West immediately got on the radio and requested that U.S. Central Command again verify that there were no friendlies at Hazar Qadam. The reply was no, there are no friendlies at that site. But as it turned out, that was not quite correct. The intelligence that indicated Hazar Qadam was a Taliban or Al-Qaeda site proved to be dated. It seemed possible that Afghan fighters at Hazar Qadam might have crossed over to the new AIA government 2 weeks before the raid, but if that's the case, Afghan officials had not reported this. The American operators also tried everything they could to get the armed men inside to surrender and only returned fire once they had been fired upon. So if these guys were friendlies, it really wouldn't make sense why they didn't just surrender as soon as they saw Americans wearing American uniforms. And from what I'm able to find online, it is unclear whether these guys were friendlies or hostile fighters. But at the end of the day, the members of 5th Group did their job perfectly and only fired once fired upon. But let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. And if you guys want to see the uncensored combat footage that YouTube wouldn't allow me to show on this video, I'll have it linked down in the description on my Patreon page where I post all of the uncensored footage from these videos. And if you liked this story, you should definitely check out the video on screen right now. It is one of my favorites.